situation. What's abundantly clear on the ground is that the U.S. is entirely losing that war militarily. The Taliban are growing stronger. They're getting more weaponry. They're benefiting from a system of bribery where the United States is paying tribes who in turn bribe the Taliban not to attack certain supply convoys when they pass through. And then the Taliban turn around and purchase weapons using U.S. money to then attack on a different day. And I interviewed former senior members of the Taliban government, people that were the face of the Taliban after 9/11 who are now under house arrest in Kabul. And what they were saying is that the U.S. campaign of targeted killings against senior Taliban leadership have been very successful. But what the U.S. is doing is killing the most educated people within the Taliban, people that actually understand something, a basic level of negotiation technique. These were people that were trying to negotiate a handover of Osama bin Laden. They wanted to hand him over to the Saudi government where he could be tried in a Sharia court. The U.S. wouldn't even talk to them. That's for a different discussion, but the point is these are people that had a semblance of embassies around the world. They had open channels with certain Muslim countries. The new generation of Taliban commanders that are being created as a result of killing the old school Taliban are far more radical. When we were there, Mullah Muhammad Omar, the head of the Taliban, sent an emissary to meet with some new Taliban commanders in Paktika province, which is south of Kabul. And he sent this emissary because they were trying to issue new guidelines for the combat forces of the Taliban. And the new Taliban commanders met Mullah Muhammad Omar's emissary and hacked him to death with machetes. Just to give you evidence that the old Taliban is not even in control of all of the forces now that are operating. And it's becoming a Pandora's box where you have regional militias that are forming, that are attacking the soldiers in that area, attacking the Afghan National Police. And the government that the U.S. is supporting in Afghanistan, of Hamid Karzai, has no credibility in huge swaths of the country. And many Afghans only experience that government as existing for the purpose of facilitating corruption. We're backing warlords, CIA assets, drug dealers, and that's the new face of Afghanistan, which is a deeply religious, largely illiterate country of people that just want to be left alone. And so when you come in and you then are grabbing women and throwing them into rooms, and you're conducting night raids on homes, and you're killing the wrong people all the time, the quote-unquote wrong people all the time, it's classic 101 of how not to wage a counterinsurgency war. And what we saw time and again is even interviewing Afghan government officials outside of Kabul, they were saying, we don't support the Karzai government because we'll be killed if we do, and we'll be killed for a good reason. And that's because they're just stealing from the people. So you have this tinderbox that's just waiting to blow. And a year or two from now, we could see a dramatic escalation in attacks on U.S. convoys. So as Russ Feingold said the last time I interviewed him, the Obama administration is whistling past the graveyard on Afghanistan. And I think it's an apt phrase because what he's saying is that they don't even realize that the thing is dead. And they're acting as though there's going to be some new strategy that's going to save it. So part of what I'm going to talk about tonight is the situation in Afghanistan. But also to talk about the rise of these private armies that are working within the U.S. national security complex. I mean, perhaps the strongest symbol of how little things have changed on a foreign policy level from Bush to Obama is the fact that Blackwater, which is a 100% Republican company, that was multiple Bush pioneers bundling money for him, benefiting from Cheney's secret orders, operating in the darkest corners of the globe in secrecy, continues to be a central part of Obama's foreign policy, particularly in Afghanistan, where they work for the CIA, the State Department, the Department of Defense, and USAID. Now, Blackwater is one of 130 such companies operating now on the U.S. government payroll. There are more contractors than soldiers in Afghanistan under President Obama. So dissecting sort of how we got to this situation, I think, is part of how we'll understand where we're going from here, and that's a large part of what I'm going to talk about tonight.